A billionaire's mansion holds every luxury imaginable, except safety for the paralyzed child trapped inside. When Scarlett, the new maid, witnesses what no one else will believe, she realizes Lydia's daily terror isn't a tantrum. It's a warning. The Harper mansion stood like a palace of glass and gold, perched high above the city, its warm light spilling across pristine white marble and towering windows. To the world, it was the perfect picture of success. Magazines featured its architecture, charity galas celebrated its owner, and business outlets praised John Harper for his achievements and charm. But behind those elegant doors lived a grief that no amount of money could bury. Lydia Harper, his only daughter, just 10 years old, had once been lively and full of laughter. Now she sat confined to a motorized wheelchair, her long hair often tangled from restless nights, tears staining her pale cheeks. Since the accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down, she had become a shadow of herself, fearful, jumpy, and constantly begging for help with trembling hands and silent sobs. John loved her more than anything. Yet the distance between them had grown into a chasm he didn't know how to cross. Every night, he wondered if she felt abandoned in her own home. And every morning, he tried to make up for it by giving her the best care money could buy, except the one thing she needed most, someone who would truly listen. When Scarlett Williams arrived at the mansion, she carried with her a gentle warmth and a heart sharpened by experience. As a single mother of 3, she had learned to read fear in a child's eyes, to sense when something was deeply wrong. The day she met Lydia, the girl didn't smile, didn't look up, didn't acknowledge her greeting. She simply sat rigid in her wheelchair, clutching the armrests with white-knuckled fingers, her dark eyes wide with a worry far too heavy for a child to carry. Scarlett didn't rush her. She simply knelt beside the wheelchair, placed her hand softly on Lydia's, and waited. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Lydia's trembling fingers tightened around hers. That small gesture was enough to tell Scarlett everything. This child wasn't unstable. She was terrified, and she was desperate for someone to understand her. Days passed, and Scarlett began noticing something deeply disturbing. Every afternoon at exactly 4:15 p.m., Lydia's panic would erupt without warning. Her small body would shake violently, her breathing would quicken, and she would stare down the long hallway toward the east wing of the mansion, her eyes locked on something no one else seemed to see. At first, Scarlett thought it might be a trauma response, a lingering echo of the accident. Children who experienced severe trauma sometimes relived their fears. But Lydia wasn't lost in memory when her terror spiked. She was wide awake, alert, and reacting to something happening in the present. One evening, Scarlett brought this concern to John. He was sitting in his expansive office, surrounded by contracts, financial reports, and the constant glow of multiple screens. He barely looked up as she spoke. "Mr. Harper, Lydia is asking for help every day. Something is scaring her." John sighed heavily, rubbing his temples as if the weight of the world pressed against them. "Scarlett, she's been like this since the accident. The doctors say it's emotional instability from the trauma. She needs structure, not coddling." His tone was firm, but his eyes betrayed something else. Uncertainty, perhaps even guilt. Scarlett left his office with the unsettling feeling that he was hiding something, maybe even from himself. That afternoon, Scarlett stayed closer to Lydia than usual. She wanted to witness the 4:15 episode herself. The mansion was eerily quiet except for the soft hum of air conditioning and the distant murmur of Keira Wiley's voice echoing from another wing. Scarlett checked the time on her phone. 4:12, 4:13, 4:14. The house remained still. Then, at exactly 4:15 p.m., everything changed. Scarlett knelt beside Lydia with a medical swab to perform routine care. The moment the child saw it, her face contorted in absolute terror. She began sobbing uncontrollably, violent tremors racking her small frame as she gripped the wheelchair's armrests. Her eyes weren't focused on Scarlett. They were locked on the doorway behind her. Scarlett spun around and saw John rushing into the room, breathless and alarmed. But Lydia wasn't reacting to her father. She was staring past him at the elegant figure now stepping into view. Keira Wiley stood in the doorway, her expression perfectly composed, her smile tight and unreadable. Lydia's voice, weak and trembling, cracked into a desperate whisper. Scarlett had never heard from her before. "Please, don't let her hurt me again." The room went silent. John froze mid-step. Scarlett's breath caught in her throat. And Keira's smile flickered, just for a heartbeat, into something cold and calculating. In that moment, Scarlett understood. Lydia wasn't traumatized by an accident. She wasn't imagining threats. She was living in terror of the very woman John planned to marry. The danger wasn't external. It was inside the mansion. It had always been there, hiding behind polished smiles and carefully crafted lies. As Scarlett watched Lydia's tear-streaked face, a fierce resolve hardened within her. She was a mother. She had spent years protecting her own children. And now, she made a silent vow she would not break. She would not leave Lydia alone. She would not ignore her silent pleas, and she would uncover the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be. Scarlett's first week at the Harper mansion unfolds under a heavy veil of unease, each day following the same unsettling rhythm. She keeps a discreet log in her phone, marking every time Lydia's terror surges like clockwork. 4:15 p.m. Sharp. No matter where they are, Lydia's eyes snap toward the corridor leading to the east wing, her clenched fists trembling atop the wheelchair's controls. Sometimes, Lydia tries to communicate after these episodes. Scarlett finds her in the hush of her bedroom, small body curled tight with a tablet balanced shakily in her lap. Lydia's fingers hover over the screen, painstakingly spelling out words. Help, scared, don't leave. But whenever footsteps echo through the hallway, especially those clipped and measured steps belonging to Keira, Lydia erases her message, panic painted across her widened eyes. Every time Keira's voice carries from across the mansion, singing out commands or sharing a brittle laugh, Lydia recoils, the tablet clutched tightly as if it might save her. Scarlett softens her approach, speaking in gentle tones that reverberate with the patience earned from years as a mother. "Is it the hallway, Lydia? What do you see there?" Most days, Lydia will only shake her head, tears threatening, jaw set against words too hard to voice. Scarlett tries not to push. She simply stays close, offering silent reassurance. After recording a week's worth of incidents, Scarlett corners John in the kitchen one evening, the clatter of silverware masking her urgency. "John, I need to ask, you said Lydia's accident was a fall down the grand staircase, but she reacts so strongly to the East Wing hallway. Was that where it happened?" He pauses mid-motion, eyes flicking quickly, and sets his wine glass down a little too firmly. "Yes, she fell down the stairs. It was terrible," he replies, voice brittle. But Scarlett watches his face. A muscle jumps along his jaw, and the next words sound rehearsed, layers of truth buried beneath practiced sympathy. That night, Scarlett tucks Lydia beneath embroidered sheets. The moonlight slants across the room, painting Lydia's face with pale shadows. As Scarlett smooths tangled hair from Lydia's brow, the child's grip tightens around Scarlett's hand. Her voice, nearly swallowed by the hush, cracks out. "Don't leave me alone. She gets angry when I cry." Scarlett freezes. The words coil deep in her chest as a chill creeps over her skin. Lydia's fear is not a ghost left behind by an accident. It is alive, stalking the hallways each day just as the clock strikes 4:15. Scarlett makes another silent note. The patterns are real, and the mansion's secrets refuse to stay buried. Dinner at the Harper mansion is a carefully orchestrated performance. Crystal chandeliers cast warm pools of light across the dining table, where fine china gleams against dark mahogany. Keira Wiley sits at John's right hand, her posture flawless, her dress a deep emerald that complements her elegantly styled hair. She is beautiful in the way expensive things are, polished, immaculate, calculated. But Scarlett has learned to see beneath surfaces, and what she finds chills her. Lydia sits across from Keira, positioned in her wheelchair at the table's edge. The child barely touches her food, fork trembling against her plate. When a piece of roasted asparagus falls from her grasp, clattering softly, Keira's smile tightens into something sharp. "Lydia, you're overreacting again," Keira says, her voice smooth as silk over steel. "It's just a vegetable. Control yourself." Lydia flinches at the rebuke, her hand jerking involuntarily toward the wheelchair controls. The chair lurches backward an inch with a soft electronic whir. Before Scarlett can react, Keira stands and moves behind Lydia, gripping the child's shoulder with manicured fingers. "Sit still. You're making a scene." Scarlett watches Keira's knuckles whiten with pressure. Lydia's face drains of color, her breath catching as she freezes completely. John doesn't seem to notice, absorbed in his phone beside his wine glass. But Scarlett sees everything. The way Lydia's eyes squeeze shut, the tremor that runs through her small frame, the silent plea radiating from her rigid posture. "Perhaps she's simply tired," Scarlett offers carefully, setting down her own fork. "It's been a long day." Keira releases Lydia's shoulder, turning her glacial smile toward Scarlett. "Perhaps," though coddling her won't help matters. After dinner, Keira corners Scarlett in the kitchen while clearing plates. The mansion's ambient sounds, the hum of appliances, the distant murmur of a television, feel suddenly oppressive. "Scarlett, I need you to understand something," Keira begins, her tone conspiratorial yet firm. "Lydia has been dependent on attention since the accident. She must be broken out of this cycle. Discipline, not sympathy, is what she needs." Her eyes hold Scarlett's, searching for agreement. Scarlett keeps her expression neutral, though her instincts scream otherwise. "With respect, Mrs. Wiley, sometimes children need reassurance when they're afraid." "Miss Wiley," Keira corrects coolly, "and fear is often learned behavior." The implication hangs heavy between them before Keira glides away, heels clicking against marble. Later, as Scarlett wipes down the counter, Maria, the longtime housekeeper, approaches with folded linens. The older woman's voice drops to barely above a whisper. "Be careful with that one." She nods toward where Keira disappeared. Keira gets rid of anyone Lydia grows attached to. The last caregiver lasted 3 weeks before she was dismissed. No explanation given. Scarlett's hands still on the countertop. What happened to her? Maria's eyes are sad, knowing. Lydia cried for days. She presses the linens into Scarlett's arms and adds quietly, "That child's fear isn't about what happened. It's about who's still here." The pieces shift into focus with terrible clarity. Lydia's panic isn't a ghost haunting empty hallways. It's a living presence wearing elegant dresses and cruel smiles. Scarlett's maternal instincts, honed over years of protecting her own children, crystallize into certainty. Lydia's terror is directed at someone inside this house, and that someone has been hiding in plain sight. all along. Chapter 4. The footage that doesn't exist. Scarlett spent her mornings mapping out the Harper mansion in her mind. The labyrinth of corridors, sun-drenched rooms, and the notorious East Wing where Lydia's fear was sharpest. Each hallway spoke of old secrets. Velvet runners muffling urgent footsteps. Ornate doors concealing more than luxury. She asked Maria, the housekeeper, about the security system, and the answer startled her. 36 cameras, miss. All the corridors, entrances, and every common room, Maria said, a note of pride in her voice. Scarlett's curiosity grew. 36 cameras meant every inch of the mansion was under constant watch, especially the places Lydia refused to look. One quiet afternoon, Scarlett approached John in his study. She chose her words carefully, her tone even. John, could I see the footage from the night of Lydia's accident? Sometimes things can be clearer with a second look. John's reaction was almost immediate. He shifted, eyes darting to the cluttered desk, knuckles tightening around his pen. Before he could answer, Keira appeared in the doorway, her gaze laser-sharp. The footage, she interrupted with a placid smile, was corrupted. Power outage. The system glitched. We lost everything from that night. She said it with such finality that Scarlett saw John's shoulders slump, his mouth set into a thin line. He didn't argue. The subject changed swiftly, John's voice distant as he asked Scarlett about the evening's menu. Later, driven by unease, Scarlett slipped into the security room under the pretense of checking for lost keys. The screens looped through countless hours of ordinary life. But when she searched the archives, the folder marked for the night of Lydia's accident was missing. Just gone. A blank space where records should be. Her unease sharpened. She knew the mansion's layout well enough now to believe no ordinary glitch had wiped the footage. As evening fell and the mansion settled into its hushed routines, Scarlett moved quietly past the study. Voices carried through the half-closed door, Keira's, sharp and urgent, John's, low and tense. We have to protect our future, Keira hissed, words trembling with veiled threat. You cannot let Lydia ruin everything we've built, everything that's coming. John's reply was muffled, defensive, ending in tired resignation. Scarlett lingered in the hallway, heart pounding with certainty. Doors in this house were not opened by accident, and secrets did not vanish without help. Keira's interruptions, John's discomfort, the missing folder, all pointed to one truth. Someone was covering up what happened that night. And Lydia wasn't just haunted by memory. She was being silenced by the living. Scarlett left the corridor marked by shadows, vows settling quietly on her lips. Whatever was hidden in the Harper mansion's elegant halls, she would find it, even if those sworn to protect Lydia were the very ones who put her in harm's way. The East Wing corridor feels like stepping into a different house entirely. Scarlett ventures down it one afternoon while John is away at a business meeting and Keira is supposedly meeting with wedding planners downtown. The hallway stretches long and narrow, lit by dim sconces that cast more shadow than light. Unlike the rest of the mansion's immaculate maintenance, this corridor shows signs of neglect. Dust gathers along the baseboards, and the air hangs heavy with a chill that shouldn't exist in a climate-controlled home. Scarlett walks slowly, her footsteps muffled by the worn runner. She counts the doors, 3 on each side, all closed, all silent. But at the very end sits a door different from the others. Heavier, with a sleek keypad entry system glowing faintly red. Locked. Earlier that morning, she'd heard Keira's voice echoing faintly from somewhere down this hallway, sharp and urgent, followed by the mechanical beep of a keypad and a door clicking shut. Now, standing before it, Scarlett reaches out tentatively. The doorknob is ice-cold beneath her palm, colder than any metal should be in a heated house. She pulls her hand back, startled, and the hallway lights flicker, once, twice, plunging the corridor into momentary darkness before sputtering back to life. Then she hears it. Lydia crying. The sound carries from the opposite end of the mansion, distant but unmistakable. That particular sob of terror Scarlett has come to recognize. It began the instant she touched that doorknob, as if the child could sense her proximity to something forbidden. Scarlett's pulse quickens. She backs away from the door, unsettled by the synchronicity, and hurries back toward Lydia's room. She finds the child in her wheelchair by the window, tears streaming down her face, small hands gripping the armrests until her knuckles are white. Scarlett kneels beside her immediately, brushing damp hair from Lydia's forehead. "I'm here, sweetheart. What's wrong?" Lydia's breath comes in ragged gasps. She reaches for Scarlett's hand and clutches it with desperate strength, her eyes wide and pleading. When she finally speaks, her voice is barely a whisper, trembling with genuine terror. "Don't go there. She'll hurt you too." Scarlett's blood runs cold. Lydia's warning isn't about ghosts or nightmares. It's about a living threat behind that locked door, something Keira guards jealously, something connected to the night Lydia lost the ability to walk. The child's fear isn't irrational. It's earned through experience that no 10-year-old should ever have to endure. Scarlett holds Lydia close, making another silent promise. She will uncover what lies behind that door, no matter the cost. Because whatever secrets the East Wing holds, they're the key to understanding why this child lives in constant terror. And who put her there? Scarlett waits until Lydia is napping before slipping into the hallway with her phone clutched tightly. She's managed to locate the physician who authored Lydia's initial medical report, Dr. Raymond Chen, a spinal specialist at the city's trauma center. It took 3 calls and a carefully worded explanation before his receptionist agreed to pass along her message. When he returns her call, his voice is cautious, professional. "Ms. Williams, I can only discuss general information. You understand. Patient confidentiality." "I understand, doctor," Scarlett interrupts gently. "But I'm Lydia's caregiver now, and something doesn't add up about her accident. John Harper said she fell down the grand staircase. Is that consistent with her injuries?" A long pause stretches between them. When Dr. Chen speaks again, his voice has dropped to something quieter, more guarded. "Off the record, and this cannot leave this conversation. No. Falls typically cause acute impact trauma, compression fractures, vertebral breaks at specific points of contact." He hesitates, then continues. "Lydia's spinal trauma shows a pattern of sustained pressure, not sudden impact." Scarlett's breath catches. Sustained pressure? What does that mean? "It means someone pressed her down," Dr. Chen admits, the words heavy with implication. "The damage to her spinal cord is consistent with prolonged compression, as if weight was applied over time, not in a single traumatic event. I documented my concerns in the report, but—" He trails off, and Scarlett can hear the frustration in his silence. The family's legal team was very insistent about the official narrative. Horror floods through Scarlett, cold and visceral. She closes her eyes, steadying herself against the wall. "Thank you, doctor. This helps more than you know." After the call ends, she stands motionless in the corridor, mind racing. Someone deliberately caused Lydia's paralysis. Someone held that child down, applied pressure to her spine, until the damage was irreversible. And now that same someone walks freely through this mansion, planning a wedding, silencing anyone who gets too close to the truth. Scarlett returns to Lydia's room, where the child has woken and sits staring out the window. As Scarlett approaches, she begins observing more carefully. the way Lydia's hand lifts, trembling, as if to point at something. Her finger hovers in the direction of the hallway where Keira's voice echoes from downstairs. But terror seizes Lydia's features, and her hand drops immediately, curling into a fist against her chest. "It's okay, sweetheart," Scarlett whispers, kneeling beside the wheelchair. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." But Lydia's eyes tell a different story. One written in sustained fear, in the memory of pain that should never have been inflicted. Scarlett's protective instincts, honed through years of raising 3 children of her own, crystallize into absolute certainty. "My children are her age," she murmurs to herself. "I can't ignore this. I won't." Whatever it takes, she will protect Lydia. She will expose the truth. And she will ensure that whoever hurt this child faces justice. The clock on the mantelpiece ticks toward 4:15 p.m., and Scarlett can already feel the tension gathering in the air like a gathering storm. She's positioned herself in the living room with Lydia, the afternoon light streaming through tall windows and casting golden pools across the marble floor. It should be peaceful. But Scarlett has learned that this time of day brings anything but peace. Lydia sits rigid in her wheelchair, her small hands gripping the armrests, watching Scarlett's every movement with wide, anxious eyes. Scarlett keeps her voice soft, soothing, as she reaches for the medical swab to perform routine care, checking for any signs of skin irritation, part of the daily protocol John insists upon. The moment Lydia sees the swab, something inside her shatters. A scream rips from the child's throat, louder and more desperate than Scarlett has ever heard. Lydia's entire body convulses with violent tremors, her wheelchair rocking as she thrashes against invisible restraints. But her eyes aren't focused on the swab in Scarlett's hand. They're locked on the doorway across the room, terror etched into every feature of her pale face. Scarlett drops the swab immediately, reaching for Lydia. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" "I'm right here." Footsteps thunder through the hallway. John bursts into the room, breathless, his tie askew and face flushed with alarm. "What happened? I heard—" He stops mid-sentence, frozen in the doorway, staring at his daughter's raw panic. But Lydia isn't looking at her father. Her gaze is fixed on the space behind him, where a figure has just appeared. Elegant, composed, immaculate, Keira steps into view, her expression unreadable, her burgundy dress pristine against the chaos unfolding before her. Lydia's voice cracks through the room, thin and desperate, every word torn from some deep well of terror. "Please, don't let her hurt me again." The words hang in the air like shattered glass. John goes absolutely still, his face draining of color. Scarlett feels her own breath catch in her throat as the full weight of what Lydia just said crashes over them all. This isn't a tantrum. This isn't trauma-induced confusion. This is a child naming her abuser. For one crystalline moment, time stops. John turns slowly toward Keira, confusion and dawning horror warring across his features. Scarlett watches Keira's face transform, the careful mask of concern slipping away to reveal something cold, calculating, predatory. Her eyes narrow, her mouth tightens into a thin line, and for just a heartbeat, Scarlett sees exactly what Lydia has been seeing all along. "She's having another episode," Keira says smoothly, but her voice has lost its warmth. She doesn't know what she's saying. "Don't." Scarlett stands, positioning herself between Keira and the wheelchair, every maternal instinct blazing. "Don't you dare dismiss her again." The tension in the room spikes dangerously. Lydia sobs behind Scarlett, clutching at her sleeve with desperate fingers. John stands paralyzed between the two women, his world visibly crumbling. And Keira, beautiful, dangerous Keira, no longer bothers to hide the ice beneath her polished exterior. The truth is no longer buried. It stands exposed in a sun-drenched living room, demanding to be acknowledged. And there is no going back. John's private study feels smaller than usual, the walls seeming to close in as tension thickens the air. He stands behind his mahogany desk, face ashen, while Keira positions herself near the door, perfectly composed despite the accusations still echoing through the mansion. Scarlett remains near the center of the room, her presence a silent barrier between them. "This is absurd," Keira begins, her voice measured and calm. "John, you cannot possibly believe what just happened. Scarlett has been manipulating Lydia since she arrived, planting ideas, encouraging these episodes." She turns her sharp gaze on Scarlett, a pitying smile curving her lips. "You've overstepped terribly. Perhaps your maternal instincts have clouded your judgment." "No." Scarlett's voice cuts through the gaslighting with steel-edged clarity. "I didn't manipulate anything. Lydia is terrified of you, and I know why." She pulls out her phone, scrolling to her notes. "I spoke with Dr. Raymond Chen. He confirmed that Lydia's spinal trauma wasn't caused by a fall. It shows sustained pressure, someone deliberately pressing down on her spine until it caused paralysis. Keira's mask fractures just slightly, a flash of something cold and vicious crossing her features before she regains control. You contacted her doctor without authorization. That's a violation of... Stop! John's voice breaks through, raw and shaking. Just stop, Keira. I need the truth. Did you hurt my daughter? Before Keira can respond, a soft knock interrupts. Maria, the housekeeper, enters quietly, her weathered face set with determination. In her trembling hand, she holds a small USB drive. Mr. Harper, I saved this. The night of the accident, I knew something was wrong. I copied the footage before it was deleted. The room goes silent. John takes the USB with numb fingers and moves to his laptop. The screen flickers to life, showing the hallway outside the East Wing. Timestamp the night Lydia's life changed forever. The footage plays in grainy black and white. Lydia appears, walking normally, heading toward her room. Then Keira enters the frame. The audio is muted. But the body language tells everything. Keira blocking Lydia's path. Lydia trying to retreat. Then Keira lunges forward, forcing Lydia to the ground. The child tries to crawl away, her mouth open in what must be a silent scream. Keira follows, pressing down, her knee, her hands, applying weight to Lydia's small back until the child stops moving. Then Keira drags Lydia's limp body to the top of the staircase and positions her as if she'd fallen. John's breath comes in ragged gasps. His hands shake violently. You did this. You paralyzed my daughter. Keira's composure shatters completely. Her face transforms into something cruel and calculating. She was in the way, she hisses. Always crying, always needing attention. You were going to change your will, leave everything in trust for her. I couldn't let some spoiled child ruin my future. She rounds on Scarlett, eyes blazing. And you should have stayed silent like the others. Now you've made yourself a threat too, you and that pathetic child. Her voice drops to something venomous. Accidents happen in houses like this. They can happen again. The threat hangs in the air, undeniable and chilling. Scarlett's blood runs cold, but she doesn't flinch. John stands frozen, devastated and furious, staring at the woman he almost married, the monster who destroyed his daughter's life for money and power. The moment Keira realizes her confession has sealed her fate, Panic flashes across her face. She bolts toward the study door, heels clicking frantically against marble as she races toward the mansion's front entrance. But Scarlett is already moving, sprinting down the corridor toward Lydia's room, where the child sits trembling in her wheelchair, eyes wide with terror at the distant commotion. "I'm here, sweetheart," Scarlett breathes, positioning herself protectively between Lydia and the doorway. "I'm not leaving you. Not ever." John's voice booms through the mansion, phone pressed to his ear. "Security, lock down the front gate immediately, and get the police here now. We have a situation." His words crack with barely contained fury and devastation. Within minutes, security personnel have intercepted Keira at the grand entrance, her elegant composure completely shattered as she shouts threats and denials. Police sirens wail in the distance, growing louder. As officers enter to take statements, one detective accompanies John and Scarlett to the East Wing. The locked door with its keypad entry yields to John's override code, swinging open to reveal a room that makes Scarlett's stomach turn. Medical restraints hang from a reinforced chair. Documents are stacked on a desk, forged medical records, amended will drafts in Keira's handwriting, and detailed notes tracking Lydia's routines and vulnerabilities. It's a calculated archive of manipulation, evidence of months spent planning how to eliminate a child who stood between Keira and a fortune. "This is enough to prosecute," the detective says grimly, photographing everything methodically. Back in Lydia's room, the child watches through tear-filled eyes as Scarlett returns to her side. When Scarlett kneels beside the wheelchair, Lydia's small hand reaches out, trembling, and clutches Scarlett's fingers with desperate strength. Her voice emerges as barely more than a whisper, broken but relieved. "You believed me." Those 3 words shatter something inside Scarlett. She pulls Lydia into a gentle embrace, careful of her fragile frame. "Always. I will always believe you." John enters moments later, his face ravaged by grief and guilt. He drops to his knees before his daughter, tears streaming freely. "Lydia, I'm so sorry. I should have listened. I should have protected you. I failed you, sweetheart. I failed you so badly." His voice breaks completely, hands hovering uncertainly, as if he's forgotten how to comfort his own child. Lydia looks at her father with eyes that have seen too much suffering, but she doesn't pull away. Slowly, tentatively, she reaches for him. John holds her carefully, apologizing over and over as sirens fade and police escort Keira away in handcuffs. In the aftermath, as the mansion begins the long process of healing, Scarlett remains by Lydia's side. She is no longer just a caregiver or a maid. She has become something far more precious, a guardian angel, a protector, someone Lydia trusts completely when trust had been so brutally violated. As evening settles over the Harper mansion, Scarlett tucks Lydia into bed, smoothing her hair with tender care. In her heart, she renews the vow she made weeks ago, now forged in steel and purpose. I will protect her. I will never let her be harmed again.